Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Bellator 263 preview show. I'm John Pollock, joined by Phil Chertok. And man, if UFC could get their act together and do pay-per-views once a month on Thursday mornings at around 10 a.m., and this could be the post-show time, their business would probably be gone within 5 years. But here we are on a Thursday afternoon as well. We're bringing in all the guns tonight because Eric Marcotte is also with us as we are focused on Bellator 263. Gentlemen, welcome. Welcome to the preview show. A first for us, looking ahead at Bellator 263. But before we dive into this very intriguing main event and card, Phil, I am sending the reins over to you because we have news off the top, lots to get to on today's preview show.
Yes, no time to dilly-dally, and so it's time to make an announcement, very exciting announcement. With a little effort, we were able to get a new piece of merchandise in the post-wrestling store. And so, Eric, could you provide maybe some theme music, perhaps the music of future Bellator fighter Ilir Latifi?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
All right. Well, I'm going to do the music then.
What does
that say?
What the
hell? Everyone, this is the first, and I don't think only, Eric Marcotte custom shirt. For those listening here, Phil has gone deep into his Bjorn Rebney roots and resurrected the original Bellator logo in the style of Eric Marcotte. And if you could just stand up once again, Phil, our display model, do note it is Eric MMArcotte.
Oh, wow.
So, folks, run to store.postwrestling.com. and pick up your limited edition. This is only going to be a small window to pick up this shirt because this is going to be flying faster than tickets to All Out at the Now Arena.
Yes, I have a little bit more details, but before I get to that screen, I have to linger on Eric's reaction here. Eric, do you have anything to say about this historic event and, this historic merchandise?
And how Phil consulted with you about this?
Yes. If it wasn't apparent by my reaction, this is the first I've seen or heard of this. I am simultaneously amazed and horrified. Quite the roller coaster of emotions.
Yes. Well, I can't take any or all of the credit. Quite frankly, this is care of our good friend Dickie Bird, who of course runs an amazing series on Twitch every Monday and Wednesday. It's the best show on Monday nights and a terrific lead-in to Dynamite. You can get this shirt right now, all through August. It's available in black or white at store.postwrestling.com. We'll be reminding you again, of course, on the post show and throughout the month. So get this exclusive piece of post swag while it lasts.
I just got off the phone, actually. So now, welcome to the Bellator 263 preview show brought to you by store.postwrestling.com, the home of the Eric Marcotte limited edition T-shirt, available through the end of August. So there you go. Surprise, surprise, Eric. We're now going to market the hell out of Eric Marcotte, the hardest working man in MMA.
That one's really going to be just flying off the racks.
I would love that shirt. I would totally score that shirt. Believe me, it's not easy for me to get my hands on some of this. I gotta go through heaven and earth with way to ever score some post wrestling merchandise. So I'll see what I can do. I might just have to buy the thing myself. So there you go.
I think Bjorn Rebney already has one ordered, actually. So
well, you know what? For the follow-up shirt, we should just get like the logo with Eric, and then on the back, Mexico. With
yes.
exclamation, maybe 2 exclamation points just to drive it home. Still my favorite UFC social media moment of the year, Mexico.
Easily.
But this coming Saturday show will not be in Mexico. Instead, they are at the Forum in Inglewood, California, getting away from the fight sphere in Uncasville, Connecticut. And Guys, this is a major main event in Bellator's history. There are obviously going to be fights that were bigger during the Spike era when they had Kimbo Slice, Ken Shamrock, Royce Gracie. But I would say in terms of two guys, I won't say Patricio, he had a career before getting to Bellator, but this was the promotion that everyone learned on a mass scale of Patricio Pitbull. And AJ McKee, from the ground up, has had his career in Bellator. How big of a fight, Eric, is this in Bellator's history on Saturday?
So I think you kind of said it the way it is, in the sense that it's not, in terms of viewership, this isn't going to touch their biggest fights ever. But in terms of quality, with two kind of Bellator homegrown talents, this ranks right at the top. I can't recall the last time I was this excited about a Bellator main event.
It's one where, I mean, you can look at the novelty of when Kimbo Slice would fight, but I mean, that was always going to be like a very short-term plan. Like Kimbo Slice was not going to be your future. It was for the now and attracting an audience that the idea was all these fans are going to come in to watch Kimbo Slice and they'll be exposed to all these other great fighters. That's a fine game plan. It doesn't always work out that way. They are there for Kimbo and they will come back for Kimbo, but they were not sticking around for the Bellator product. I would say this card, like these are two fighters. Patricio Pitbull, yes, the older fighter, but hardly to me on like any kind of decline. And AJ McKee is very well a fighter that we could be talking about in 2 years as one of the biggest stars in the sport. I'm that high on AJ McKee. So I think, Phil, this is one where this really represents like the long-term play of Bellator to get to this point where they can promote a fight like this that has garnered this attention, as opposed to a Ken Shamrock or a Kimbo Slice that has all of that history behind them.
Yeah, I do think it is all of that, but I also think it's sort of a starting point as well, because this is still very early in the new relationship with Showtime. And Showtime has a history of putting on not just MMA, but combat sports. And they've reinvested a lot into boxing recently, and they know how to build stars. They've built Gervonta Davis and other stars in the history of Showtime boxing. So I think that we're kind of seeing a beginning here. We saw McKee sitting ringside at a recent Showtime boxing event next to Steven Espinoza. So I think this is, as you said, these are two homegrown Bellator stars, and that's hugely important. I mean, McKee made his professional debut in Bellator. It's the only promotion he's fought for. He was supposed to, I think, have an international fight. Maybe he did. But so as much as it is a culmination of all those things, I think it's a beginning of something long-term with Bellator and Showtime together.
This, beyond just, they're fighting for the Featherweight Championship. This is also the finals of their Featherweight World Grand Prix. And what's amazing, Eric, is the fact that we got to this final. Like, this started off as a 16-man tournament, which I really like the opening round format where they had the lottery and getting to choose the opponents. You did not enjoy this?
I was watching that show live.
Or the idea itself?
The execution. I was watching this show live, and it was a long, poorly paced show. And when there was like a 50-minute interval between the co-main event and the main event, I was fuming. But when the show eventually finished at like 2:30 a.m. or whatever, I can look back and say things worked out pretty well. I mean, you were getting at the point that to have the kind of idealized matchup actually end up happening in the finals of AJ McKee and Patricio Pitbull, the odds of that happening are so astronomically low. And to arrive at that result, it's just made this fight all that much more bigger.
Yeah, it's a great point. And you also have to look at you had the pandemic in the midst of this. And I don't know if that might have helped or hurt this tournament in the sense of there was this big gap where Bellator wasn't running shows. You had guys able to recover. Like, we're talking about like Pitbull, who had to defend his championship throughout this whole tournament. He beats Juan Archuleta, Pedro Carvalho, and then Emmanuel Sanchez in the rematch, which was a very dominant victory in the second fight. McKee goes through Georgi Karahanyan in 8 seconds, Derek Campos, and then this amazing submission of Darian Caldwell. Like this, you could not have asked for fate to be on your side any more than what Bellator got here, because I think everyone at the start of this tournament, if you're looking at a fight that you're hoping to see, this was the one people were discussing right from the get-go. So it's quite astonishing that they're here, Phil.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I'm personally not someone who's a big fan of the tournament format for all of those reasons that you outlined that they were able to avoid through the past year plus. It's pretty amazing how PFL is able to run their seasons without any significant injuries to date. But it has worked out. And as Eric said, the fact that this is the final of a tournament does add to the excitement that someone's going to get $1 million. I mean, we haven't mentioned that. That's I think that's something that should be promoted more with all this, the talk of, fighter pay and all that. Making millionaires is a sign of a top level MMA promotion.
And the sign of a top-level MMA reviewer, because the T-shirt business is going to be very fruitful for one Eric Marcotte. I think he's going to.
To add to what you were saying, though, it's not like either McKee nor Pitbull, their paths to get into these fights. They fought some tough fighters on their way up. These were hardly layups. So, especially for McKee, who's been around in Bellator a long time, yes, but hasn't necessarily faced the top featherweights in their division until this tournament, and obviously he's looked fantastic. Same with Pitbull. I mean, he has fought the best, but guys like Emmanuel Sanchez, their first fight was really close. That was a 5-round war, and to just go in there and finish him in the first round for their rematch, it's just led to a phenomenal buildup.
Yeah, and I think like the Antonio McKee maturation process in Bellator, to me, it's one of the strongest assets that Scott Coker has been able to show during his entire reign here since taking over from Bjorn Rebney, is that you could see a game plan from Scott Coker several years ago, that it was novelty fights on top, but also scouting for those prospects and being very aggressive. And I think a lot of us looked at Aaron Pico as being that potential breakout star, and then sneaking in was Antonio McKee, who I think has realized all of that attention that Aaron Pico had. And I don't write off Aaron Pico either, but I think like that was the idea: build the top, build the bottom, and hopefully several years into this experiment, then you have a well-rounded roster. And here we are. Like, Antonio McKee to me is the argument of someone that matchmaking for him for MVP, they sometimes do receive some criticism, but I think like that's also something we don't see the UFC kind of go that, very slow process, and there can be good and bad attached to it. But when it goes well, this is what you have at the end of it, is AJ McKee, who is days away from the biggest fight of his career and has that potential breakout ability, I feel.
100%. And I think the comparison you kind of made there to Michael Page, there's a lot to that as well. I mean, his has not been handled this well, in my opinion, because he proved, to me at least, that he's an elite level fighter a long time ago, and to still have him in there with a lot of lesser competition has been sort of embarrassing as he ages. But hey, to be fair, they did book the rematch against Douglas Lima coming up. So,
Phil, what are you looking at in this fight in terms of questions that you're going into this fight for? Maybe on the side of AJ McKee, but also just in terms of Pitbull, who has, I think a very unheralded resume in MMA, and that really goes to the fact of like the average consumer's concentration of UFC versus what else is out there, and Pitbull might be exhibit A for that argument.
Absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, he's had an incredible career. He's fought the best of the best. Not that long ago, he knocked out Michael Chandler. And that's somebody who just fought for a UFC title. And
yeah,
that was
this is
a
2-division champion that I don't know if everyone is quite aware. Like, it's kind of on the back burner that this guy beat Michael Chandler for the lightweight title. He's a champion at 2 divisions in Bellator.
Yes, and he's an incredibly exciting fighter as well. So I don't really have any questions about him because I know he's an elite fighter. It's more, is this going to be another crowning achievement for him? I think the questions are around McKee. Where is his skill level at right now? Is this too soon? Maybe it's not too soon. Is this the birth of one of the truly great fighters of the weight class and the generation. So I think that's where more of the intrigue lies, and of course how this fight is going to play out, because on paper it just screams of being exciting.
Eric, how about with Pitbull? I mean, this is a guy that has been able to show, power in both hands, a very dangerous guillotine that he's been able to demonstrate. However, the submission game of Antonio McKee, like, it just to me feels like it is like that next generation that we're seeing of just real creative setups. And, Darian Caldwell being a perfect example of just, this is a guy that just seems to be reinventing just different setups that work for him, and extreme flexibility. And you combine all of that, that becomes a very difficult game plan to prepare for when you don't know what the setups are going to be like. He is not kind of that pattern fighter.
This fight's very much looking like a great deal of aggression and creativity on the side of McKee against the more patient fundamentals that Pitbull often exercises. Now, they're both capable of finishing fights from almost anywhere, which is why this is so exciting. But it'll definitely be interesting to see which style triumphs here. McKee, what makes watching him so great is he is always looking for the finish. It doesn't matter if you're on the feet or really any position on the ground. He's always going to be looking for submissions, knockouts, and that makes watching him a ton of fun. And Pitbull is not all too different in that regard. He doesn't chase finishes the way that McKee does, but they find a way anyways. This guy does not go the distance often.
Phil, what is your expectation here? Like, are you expecting like a 5-round fight here between these two? Or do you think that this is enough that these two, I mean, they have so many different weapons that they're going to be testing one another, and that we will see a stoppage in this fight?
I think we will see a stoppage because of the styles. I feel like if McKee is able to get that ground control the way he's been able to against other fighters, it seems like a finish would be inevitable. But then if he's not able to get that, and Patricio is savvy enough to stay safe and punish him on the ground, or even just keep it on the feet and hurt him, I could see him wearing him down too. So for me, it's just a lot of questions around McKee and how he's going to handle this fight. But I think there's just going to be so much fireworks that there will be a finish either way.
Yeah, I really love this fight. I think that it's just, yeah, I think that Bellator and Showtime have also done a very effective job promoting this fight. Like, I think to your point, Phil, having that muscle of Showtime behind you is to me one of I would say their biggest fight that they have promoted since that deal came together earlier this year. And that's certainly, you hope that it reaches an audience that they're going as well. Yes, you have a fight night going against them, but Eric, this is not of the past 2 weeks. You're not going against a TJ Dillashaw coming back. You're not going against Miesha Tate out of retirement. Like, this is a card that I would say, if you are a pretty loyal UFC viewer week after week, this is a weekend that UFC is almost giving you a hall pass to go check out Bellator and then check back after for Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland.
100%. It's an atrocious card. With all due respect to Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland, which is
with all due respect.
Yeah, but the rest of this card is not exciting on paper. So Uriah Hall, to be fair, is probably a bigger name than anybody on Bellator. People are going to be familiar with him, and I expect that the UFC card will still do better numbers than this Bellator card. But if you're someone who views both, or maybe just has a bit of interest in Bellator and you're looking to check it out, this would be the week you'd go watch Bellator instead. They don't usually run head to head either, which is a very interesting choice.
Yeah, that is worth noting, the fact that, Bellator has kind of carved out Friday nights as their night. And I don't know if that's something to do with the fact that they are trying to sell tickets here in Inglewood, California, Saturday being maybe more advantageous for them as well. Like Showtime as well, the dynamic is a bit different. Like, you are not necessarily just weighing this on viewership. Like, they want subscribers to Showtime. They want to use this product to bring you in to Showtime and sign up for the subscription. So that's kind of, their line of thinking here is, attracting new subscribers here. The card did lose a fight between It was Magomed Magomedov and Rafian Stotts, which was a pretty interesting bantamweight fight that they had planned here. The main card includes featherweights Mads Burnell taking on Emmanuel Sanchez. Sanchez is coming off of that second loss to Patricio Pitbull in the tournament. Usman Nurmagomedov versus Manny Muro. Brent Primus, the former lightweight champion who had it for it was the injury to Michael Chandler and then lost it back to Chandler against Islam Mabadov. And then at a 160-pound catchweight bout, Goichi Yamauchi, who's a very exciting fighter, is taking on Chris Gonzalez, who is a fighter out of Team Alpha Male that thus far in his career, he's 6-0. So this is obviously a very big fight for him. He was signed immediately by Bellator after his first pro fight. So that's a pretty big test for Chris Gonzalez. But Eric, what beyond the main event, what has your attention here?
The co-main event actually isn't that far behind the main event in terms of my interest level. I mean, Mads Burnell is a very talented fighter. He was in the UFC for a bit, and he was cut after a loss to Arnold Allen, of all people, who's on like the second longest winning streak in the entire promotion right now. And that was a fight he was winning, and he just kind of got caught near the very end of it. So he struck me as a very talented fighter, and if he wins this, I imagine he'll probably be fighting the winner next, of the main event next, that is. And Emmanuel Sanchez is a fighter I'm very high on as well. As the Discord archives might be able to tell you, I actually picked him to beat Pitbull in that rematch, a prediction that did not age well at all. But he remains a phenomenal fighter, a phenomenal grappler, and he's comfortable on the feet as well. So that could be a really exciting fight.
Phil, how about you? I mean, a lot of the attention is going to be focused on the main event, but how do you think this main card looks?
For Bellator standards, it's pretty good. I think, obviously this main event is amazing, and McKee is somebody that can't miss for myself. And then Eric already pointed to the co-main. And then you've got some other pretty interesting fights here. You've got Usman Nurmagomedov, who's undefeated, the cousin of Khabib Nurmagomedov. And Brent Primus is somebody who's always in, pretty exciting fights. And as you mentioned already, Chris Gonzalez is somebody to keep an eye on as well. So the main card's looking very nice. And hopefully it's, good fights and good entertaining Bellator card.
Just looking at the odds here, the largest favorite on this show is Usman Nurmagomedov, that on FanDuel is listed at minus 1,000. But I mean, the rest of these main card fights, I mean, you've got some very, very close lines here. Patricio Pitbull is a narrow favorite, minus 122. AJ McKee plus 100. I mean, I think it's a very hard fight to predict. I think that with AJ McKee, there's more questions about him. And with Patricio, I think like this guy has an unbelievable fight catalog. If you go on Bellator's YouTube channel, they've assembled two videos, one on Pitbull's, I guess, biggest knockouts, and with AJ McKee, his top 10 finishes. It's quite the highlight reel that they have for both of these guys to hype up this fight. And an interesting wrinkle to this is AJ McKee stating that if he wins this fight, he would like the idea of going up to lightweight to fight Patricio there and take his second belt. So we could get multiple fights out of these two in multiple weight divisions.
Definitely a possibility. Although that lightweight division has kind of been on ice for a while, so we'll see what happens there. It wouldn't actually shock me if Pitbull got stripped of that lightweight title soon.
Do you want to see, Eric, these two fight at lightweight, or do you want the Patricio Patricky fight for the lightweight title? One of the few brother versus brother fights I could actually envision happening. To many of them, you just throw it completely out the window. But these two, I could totally buy that these two would have a fight.
I think that would be a very easy night at the office for Patricio. As good as Patricky is, I think there is a difference in quality between those two. But I would love to see it.
So in the US, of course, this is airing on Showtime, and the undercard is on YouTube, on Bellator's website. Eric, you're always doing the reports for Bellator. In Canada, there is no television deal. So for Canadians, how do they watch this?
You can watch it right on YouTube. It's the best deal that they've ever had.
Their best non-television deal ever. They're not exactly cultivating any money from the Canadian market, but super easy access for Bellator fans here in Canada.
Yeah, it might not be great for Bellator, but it's great for us, the fans, the audience.
Phil, as we go beyond just wrapping up here on the Bellator card, how much of Bellator are you keeping up with? And do you believe like this is going to be kind of a show that a lot of MMA fans are going to check in with and maybe be like, what are you expecting out of this broadcast? Because I do think you're going to have your biggest audience, at least for the year, that are sampling this fight. And I think a lot of it's always interesting how the promotion utilizes that night so that fans come back. Do you think this is one where they're just swooping in for a big fight and then it's back to Bellator kind of remaining in its place? Or do you think that this is a growth opportunity?
I definitely think it's a growth opportunity, and I think that Showtime sees it that way, especially if McKee is able to get that victory. As you know, they've featured him heavily on boxing broadcasts, right? So they're putting him right on their top fight promotions, fight programming. So I definitely think that it's a long-term investment. I'm not necessarily expecting too much in terms of differences in the broadcast. We saw when they moved to Showtime this year, there were little changes. I'm hoping for some improvements, maybe a little shake up here or there to the broadcast team. That might be nice. But it's a long-term play in the sense that your Bellator, you want to tell people that you put on the highest level fights, and this is the highest level fight. And so will it affect, the next show, 3, 4, 5 shows? I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference in that regard because Bellator has the roster and they sort of have to move through it. But if they can continue to build and work towards big fights like this, I think in the long term, that will be an excellent strategy for drawing in new fans.
I do hope that on Saturday, like they have their ducks in a row, that they can make several big announcements. So for those that are checking in, they leave you with a few big announcements that you're leaving the broadcast with that knowledge of some big, whether it's signings, big fights that they can confirm. Like I would want to have all that set for Saturday. It's a very big night for them, Eric.
It's a huge night for them. It'll be excited to see what they have lined up. It's hard to say. I know they just, like we talked about it a bit earlier, they just announced Douglas Lima versus Michael Venom Page 2, which is going to be a fight that got some attention, especially after their first fight where Lima brutally knocked Page out. I don't know what else they would have. I think Gegard Mousasi is headlining their next show, right?
Yeah, he's on the next card in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And they do have a Fedor fight to announce as well.
Oh, yeah.
So, that's right. They should have that opponent. That I would think they should definitely have ready. In regards to the Douglas Lima Michael Venom Page rematch, they've announced that for October 1st, which is a Friday in London. And I know that a lot of fans, they will complain when Bellator airs stuff on tape delay, but this card is airing at 4 p.m. Eastern on a Friday afternoon, meaning 1 p.m. on the West Coast. Like, who is watching this live?
People in London.
Besides Eric.
Yeah, it's not a great time slot at all.
Like I get gearing it for your UK market. I'm just saying, like for Showtime's perspective, like this is one where like if they had chosen to air it on tape delay that night, yeah, you'd get a lot of complaints, but there's no way you can convince me that more people are not watching the tape delayed version at 8 or 9 p.m. that night versus 4 in the afternoon.
Yeah, a few years ago, I think Bellator had the strategy that they were going to touch a lot of the European markets that the UFC had neglected. So they were running a lot of events in Italy, and they committed to events in France, even though it was the middle of the pandemic. So they had to do some shows in France in October. I don't know if you remember that. It was sort of weird. But I think maybe this is a leftover of that potentially. They have some European dates that they have booked because they want to service that market. So maybe it's a product of something from before Showtime deal. But you're right. I think Showtime wants this in prime time, and it's a big fight. So it's a bit weird, I guess, that it is going to air. I mean, I guess the main event will be around 7 p.m., which isn't the worst time in the world.
Depending on your life circumstances, yeah, 7 o'clock is Well, I mean, people that want to watch it, you can obviously find it. I'm just saying for maximum live viewing, I think it's tough. They are coming back August 13th. That's their next card, and that's with Gegard Mousasi defending the middleweight title against John Salter, and it has Sabah Homasi against Andrei Koreshkov, and they're rebooking the Magomedov fight with Rafian Stotts for that show. And then Chet Congo, Sergey Haratonov on August the 20th from Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Bellator gonna Bellator.
Oh boy.
So those are the rest of Bellator's summer. So we will see what they have announced on Saturday night. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to get some of your thoughts, guys, because over the past week, we got the news that UFC 267 they're aiming for October the 30th in Abu Dhabi. And an interesting note from Ariel Helwani is that this will be a numbered event that will not be a pay-per-view. Instead, it'll be on ESPN Plus. And the fights expected are the semi-long-awaited bantamweight title fight or rematch between Aljamain Sterling and Peter Yan, and Jan Blachowicz defending the light heavyweight title against Glover Teixeira. And the following week would be UFC 268, November 6th, that they're hoping to run at Madison Square Garden with the rematch between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, as per Dana White to ESPN. Any overall thoughts, Phil, on those three fights and the idea of putting a numbered event off pay-per-view?
Yeah, I mean, a numbered event off pay-per-view, it's still on ESPN Plus, so you do have to pay for it. So I guess maybe they're hoping to draw in some people, but it's also for that it'll be in the Abu Dhabi time zone, right? Like it's going to air. Right. So I think that's part of the deal that they have with Abu Dhabi over there. You know, they agreed to do some things for them to have the Fight Island, and maybe this is sort of like UFC giving a little payback. But for UFC fans who already have ESPN Plus, it's great to have a pay-per-view you don't have to pay for. And for me, it's great that it's in the middle of the day. And that MSG show, Colby versus Usman, we've seen it. I'm not so sure how different it's going to be. You feel bad for Leon Edwards. But it is a good fight. And Colby has only lost once in his last 8 or 9. And it was to Usman. And that was a great fight. So I'm not going to complain about it. And hey, Lil Wayne's going to walk him out.
It looks like we have some breaking news as well for next week's pay-per-view. It seems as though from Ariel Helwani, Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena is off. Nunes was forced to withdraw due to COVID. So I guess Lewis versus Gane was the right move.
Derek Lewis and Cyril Gane for the interim heavyweight title will be your lone headliner. Oh, that is unfortunate news. Sorry, who was it that got COVID?
Nunes.
Wow. Well, that's unfortunate for her. That was I was looking forward to that fight a lot more than the main event. So wow. I guess they'll just try and rebook that fight, which becomes difficult if you want to put that on a pay-per-view, because that September show is pretty stacked for September 25th. They already have 2 title fights on that one, plus your 5-round fight with Nick Diaz and Robbie Lawler. So I don't think you can squeeze in a 4th potential 5-round fight on there. So maybe this is, and then we're talking, I mean, maybe they're going to have to push it all the way back to November if you want this to be on a pay-per-view. This could end up being on that Usman Covington show.
I'd bet right now that that's going to be where this one ultimately lands.
Final note, and I don't know how much more to add to this other than it's really unfortunate news, and that's that Chris Weidman has to undergo another operation on his leg, which, I mean, it's only adding more time to this recovery. When I saw that news, Eric, it just seems like, man, this is all credit to this guy who seems very steadfast in making this comeback. But my God, what an awful year this has been for him.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not a doctor with any medical knowledge whatsoever, but I wasn't surprised either after seeing him sparring a month after that. Month after the initial injury. It's not shocking that something like this happened. Hopefully he recovers well and quickly.
Final word from you, Phil. We've got a fight night card on Saturday night. Are you counting down to Uriah Hall and Sean Strickland?
I mean, I'm not, because I'm going to be occupied. I'm going to be watching Bellator 263 Pitbull versus McKee, and then we'll be doing a post show right after it. So I don't have time for Uriah Hall and Strickland. I mean, I would have had my main man Askar Askarov been kept on this card, but unfortunately he was pulled, and so we can put this card off to the side, and I can enjoy Eric's review whenever that comes out.
Well, we can go. Well, listen, Phil is assigning Eric that task. I am not.
Okay. No, because he said he was going to watch it afterwards, so I just assumed that's because he needed to, not that he wanted
Eric has
to.
carte blanche. Okay, he's able to do whatever he wants. Okay, he's got the power of whatever he wants to cover.
There will be a Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland report. There we go.
Wow.
The MVP, guys. Wow. Store.postwrestling.com. Show the man your love. We will go over the results, at least of the main event, we can touch upon on the post show. But that is Saturday night. So as soon as Bellator 263 is over, flip on over to youtube.com/postwrestling, and we will be going live with a full rundown of the 263 card. And Phil, as always, the Discord will be having a big Bellator party on Saturday night.
Yeah, we'll be running fight predictions as usual. It's going to be the biggest Bellator card in Discord history, so I'm very excited about that. And just one more reminder that you can get your Eric Marcotte limited edition T-shirt at store.postwrestling.com from now until the end of August. And I want to thank Dickie Bird for providing us with the amazing design, and Mr. Cowboy Watting for getting it into the store so quickly.
The king, Mr. Watting. All right, that's going to wrap us up for our Bellator 263 post show preview show. Post show's coming up Saturday night. We hope you join us. For Eric Marcotte, Phil Chertok, I am John Pollock, and we will speak with you on Saturday night.